In this video, I'm going to walk you through an example of using a KWL chart to focus your reading and take notes. So I've already got my KWL organizer set up. It is in my folder that I'm using as my learning journal. If you do this on paper, that's also fine. If you need me to walk you through doing it on paper, I can, but it's the same thing. So I am going to, because I'm just using it as an example, picked a topic that, at least as I'm making this, probably most of us have some interest in, COVID-19. So I'm going to use it to look at this article on the COVID-19 pandemic from history.com. So put my name here so my teacher knows who it's from, if this was on paper. And I'm going to put as my subject COVID-19, and I'm going to put the web address in there. So in case I want to find this thing again, maybe I want to take a quote from it for something that I am writing, I can find it. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is put some things in my know column. What do I already know about COVID-19? COVID-19 started in 2020. COVID-19 is pretty dangerous, but most people survive it. I'm going to just put that in. Statistically pretty dangerous. COVID-19 is spread through the air. And what else do I know about it? COVID-19 probably came from bats to humans. Now, I am not an expert on this. It's okay if it turns out that some of these things that I think that I know turn out to be wrong. I can update them when I'm taking my notes, but I want to start with what at least I think that I know. And let's have some want to knows. What am I concerned about? What are some questions I might have? Why did COVID-19 start in China? Something about China that makes it more likely? I don't know. What other viruses is COVID related to? And something else about the history. Where did COVID first show up in the USA? Okay, so now I'm going to go to the actual article. So as I look at this article, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for a couple of things. One, pardon me, what seem to be the most important things the article is telling me? With any kind of notes, you don't want to take down every single thing, just the most important stuff that you think you're going to want to remember that you might find useful. And does it trigger any additional questions as I'm reading? So let's start. All right, outbreak, trigger one of the deadliest pandemics, leading up to May 11, 2023, claimed nearly 7 million lives worldwide. All right, that seems important. 7 million deaths worldwide, and it said 1.1 million deaths in the USA. All right. Twice the American death toll from the 1918 flu pandemic. Kind of interesting. Maybe not the most important thing I need to know about COVID. Heavy psychological toll, view government public health crisis. Oh, you know what? I have another question. Why did COVID vaccines get so controversial? Okay. It mentions that it raised questions about the government's role in a time of crisis. And they started out under Trump, even though it became sort of a more commonly a right-wing thing to be skeptical of vaccines. So I'm kind of curious about that. All right, I am not going to make you watch an entire video of me reading a whole article and taking notes on it. So we're going to do the magic of video editing, and when in a couple of moments, you will see me at the end. So, time warp. Time warp back. All right, I have all sorts of notes. I'm not going to sit through all of these. This example is up on Google Classroom if you want to look at it. But a couple of things I want to point out. So I've got a lot of stuff in the learned column that I picked up, but not every single thing in this whole article. I just took notes on what seemed to be key important elements. And I took them in sort of shorthand. I understand what's going on with it. It may not be as clear to someone who's not me. Again, the notes are for me. They are for me to help me understand and help me remember things and figure out what I want to know more about. Now, I did learn the answer to a couple of my questions, right? Turns out that the COVID-19 virus is related to the SARS virus that was already known before. So when I wrote that down, what I did was I did the simple thing of just putting that on the same line as my question so that I can sort of see across where my answers are. If I was doing this on paper, or if it was harder to do that, I might do something like draw a line between them so I can keep track of what I have learned. Similar thing, where did COVID first show up in the USA? Well, it turns out the first case was in Seattle, so I moved that nearby. On the other hand, down here, I put one of my questions, how are COVID vaccines developed so fast, next to a couple of bits of information. But I don't really feel like I got a full answer to this. So I might mark this as something that in the future, I'm going to try to find out more about. Some of it was a big government push of funding. Some of it was a different kind of vaccine, but I don't know. Does that make it faster? Not sure. I might have to read some more stuff to figure that out. And notice one of my questions, the one that I talked about before, why did the COVID vaccines get so controversial? This article doesn't really answer. It mentions towards the end that it was caught up in a time of other kinds of political upheavals, that COVID, while COVID was in its early stages, we also had big protests about police brutality. And it says it lets us know that resistance to masking and vaccination tended to split along like liberal, conservative, Democratic, Republican lines in the United States, but it doesn't really say why. That's still a mystery just from reading this. So notice a couple of things, not just that I filled this out, but some of my questions I've got answers to. Oh, and actually one thing I even turned out to be wrong about in my no column. I said COVID-19 started in 2020 because that's where it started in the United States. But actually, it was first reported in China in 2019, and that's actually how it gets the name COVID-19. It's not the 19th COVID. All right, so it's okay. Turned out something I thought I knew I was wrong about. So I just updated that. And I got a bunch of information, some of it related to questions I had, some of it not, but my questions helped focus it. And my questions can also help me focus future learning on this topic if I want to follow up. There are questions that I only got a partial answer to about vaccine speed. And there are questions that the article didn't really answer about why this became controversial in the way that it did. Those become reasons that I might want to read something more, and a way that focusing my reading through using something like KWL Chart can help me start building towards not just reading because I'm going to read this thing that's put in front of me, but a reading with intention, reading with the goal of getting more information, filling in my knowledge about the world.